You ready, Anthony? I'm going to call you immediately. Is that okay? You got your breath? Good man, okay. Excellent. Order, order. I will call Anthony Magnell to move the motion, as he knows there's no other speakers to speak on this debate. And he can, of course, give way to members if they so wish. He's an experienced gentleman, he will know that, and there will be no wind-up opportunity. Anthony Magnell to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Paisley. It's a pleasure to see you in the chair. I beg to move that this House has considered the future of the A379 Slapton line. For residents and visitors of South Devon, there can be no better view than those momentary westward glances that are revealed when travelling through Stoke Fleming or Street. For the unacquainted, Mr. Chairman, you are greeted with perhaps one of the most magnificent views these isles have to offer, that of the Slapton line. A bar of shingle dividing the sea and the largest natural freshwater lake in the southwest of England, the Slapton Lay. The simple beauty of it has captured the imaginations of generations and has encouraged people to retire to the area and attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year. This bar of shingle has not only become a natural importance, but a vital link between the towns of Kingsbridge and Dartmouth and the villages in between. The A379 running atop of the shingle is an arterial route carrying goods, school children, visitors, farmers, healthcare workers and emergency services across South Devon. It has become an essential link and one that the good people of South Devon cannot do without. It has a history that is as wide and as varied as you would think, from the 1824 November storm that wrecked hundreds of ships and resulted in the Slapton line being breached, to Plymouth dredging the shingle of Slapton to expand their docks, to the destruction of the village of Hallshands in 1917 due to that very dredging. And perhaps most famously, Mr. Chairman, it's the Slapton Sands in 1943 became the training ground for the D-Day landings. The similarity of the topography to northern France made it the ideal training location for US troops. As a result, an area of 34,000 acres was evacuated of residents and troops moved in to undertake their preparations for the invasion of Europe. Today, there stands a monument presented by the United States to recognise those who left their land to support the war effort, as well as a Sherman tank to commemorate Exercise Tiger and the hundreds of servicemen who died during a rehearsal in April 1944. Since then, this special area has become a wildlife sanctuary, a site of special scientific interest. The creation of the Field Centre Study Council has also helped to provide education and scientific research into the area. And so while its history and natural beauty are undeniable, there is also a working environment. The villages of Street, Slapton and Tor Cross are all adjacent to the Slapton line, and the local community is dependent on its existence and the ability to travel across the line on the A379. Over the years, the various storms have resulted in man altering the landscape to deal with the impact of Mother Nature. First in 1944, when sea defences were built in Tor Cross and then expanded and completed in 1980. Then in 2001, the road had to be repaired, and then in 2002, when a 300-metre section of the A379 was moved and rebuilt. Then in 2015, when 25,000 tonnes of shingle were moved onto the beach, and finally in 2018 when Storm Emma caused significant damage to over 500 metres of the road and the middle car park. While the scale and viciousness of the storms have varied over the years, it was Storm Emma that resulted in my predecessor, Sarah Wollaston, securing £2.5 million of government funding to realign further section of the road and place rock armour along the Slapton line to protect the road. We all know the fragility of the Slapton line. We all recognise the increasing impact of storms. But we also know that the line is integral to our rural economy, to our way of life, to ensuring access across the area. In 2001, the Slapton Line Partnership was formed to coordinate policy for managing coastal change in the area, and it was made up of a range of public and private and third sector organisations. And the current members are Devon County Council, Southampton District Council, Street, Slapton and Stokenham Parish Councils, the Environment Agency, Natural England, South Devon Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, Wild Planet Trust and the Field Studies Council. Over the years, this group has helped create a local strategy and evaluate what can and should be done to protect the line. The strategy up to 2018 was that the Slapton Sands would operate on a policy of retreating the road, meaning it could be rebuilt, moved and repaired. After Storm Emma, though, the policy of retreating the road was altered to no further retreat. This is unfortunately where the trouble began. By quietly changing the policy about how to manage the line, no consideration was given to the needs of the local community, the economic and social impact of losing the road, nor was any thought given to what the message would send to Devon County Council and indeed to central government when we asked for further funding or support. In October 2019, the Slapton Line Partnership published a strategy document, unsurprisingly and rather unexcitingly called the Slapton Line Partnership Policy Document. The excellent work undertaken by Dan Field and Chris Brooke, notwithstanding the title of that document, from South Hams District Council, has helped to identify the key areas of weakness on the Slapton Line, areas of concern and recommendations for what should be approved. And I might just take a moment, Mr. Chairman, just to put on record how very fortunate we are to have two of the best public servants in the form of Dan Field and Chris Brooke working for South Hams District Council. They have done the most extraordinary work on shoestring budgets, and I applaud them, and I want to make that very clear on record in the House. The Slapton Line Partnership Strategy document was then updated in November 2023 with me as its interim chair. Within its recommendations, the following aspects were outlined: that the road should continue to be maintained as a highway and cleared of shingle and debris post-storms. And most importantly for me in terms of this debate, that maintenance of all sea defences and the reviewing of the shoreline management plan and to extend the hold the line policy across the line would be considered. Improve traffic planning and passing points on the back routes, increase car parking at both ends of the line and ensure the adaptation plan is developed. We as a group recognise that we will not indefinitely be able to protect the line and the road from ever-increasing storms and sea levels. However, we do believe that we need to strengthen the line against future storms and that the maintenance of the sea defences and the review of the shoreline management plan and the intention to extend the hold the line policy across parts of the line will be the most cost-effective way of keeping the road open while also minimising taxpayer cost. So my ask for the moment of the government is to help us shore up those defences so that we can avoid a lengthy cost later on. As chair of the Slapton Line Partnership Group, we've reached consensus and we've produced the following documents: a beach management plan of 2017, a vulnerability assessment, an economic assessment, and together these reports have highlighted the impact that the loss of the road will have on over 30,000 people living in the area, along with the damages it will do to thousands of local jobs, the disruption to education, the limitations to healthcare and emergency services, and potential danger it will do to an economy which estimates its local value of being about £40 million GVA. These, as I'm sure the Minister knows, are not small figures, but essential figures for rural communities like mine in South Devon. So what do we need? Devon County Council are conducting the following surveys. In the first quarter of this year, a data review. In the second quarter, what options, what the design should look like. In the third quarter of this year, preliminary designs that can be presented to the Slapton Line Partnership Group. In the fourth quarter of this year, consent and planning applications. And then in the third and fourth quarter of this year, the environmental assessments. These surveys and applications are going to come at a cost of about £130,000 to £200,000. And I asked the Minister whether he would support my call for the increase in Devon County Council's budget from the Highway Maintenance Fund they have to help produce these reports. We're not asking for new money, we're asking for the money that has already been allocated to Devon County Council to go towards funding these reports. There remains some question as to what the extended and improved defences might look like, and I believe that we already have the answer. In B Sands, the neighbouring village to Slapton, I will welcome any members down to my constituency to come and see this, and I will even throw in lunch. I'll extend that to civil servants as well if they would like. In B Sands, after Storm Imogen, work began after South Hams District Council requested a new and innovative form of rock armour to be designed and trialled. Working with Landmarks and other local business, they came up with a new solution using specialist, high-tensile stainless steel mesh that locked in rock and shingle and provided a solid yet natural-looking defence system. Doorkeepers will also be invited, I hasten to add. This prototype cell system was installed in 2016 and has worked so well that in 2021 an improved TECCO system was commissioned and rolled out further along the beach at B Sands, protecting the village green and nearby properties. The initial work was funded by the Environment Agency and the extension by South Hams District Council. It's my opinion, and that of a great deal of other members of the Slapton Line Partnership and local community, that such technology would be more than appropriate to be installed on the Slapton Line, and that its successful trial at Beesands shows not only its durability, but its appropriate aesthetic look. However, to install this technology, those scoping documents and assessments need to be completed and planning consent needs to be approved. I'm led to believe that because Slapton Sands falls under the category of a triple SI, that Natural England will block any proposals we put forward. Now, while I appreciate that Natural England has a fine balancing act to work upon, I also believe it is counterproductive to reject any plans put forward, especially when the loss of this road would impact the local community so significantly. I therefore ask the Minister whether he believes that the highway maintenance should be able to circumvent any of the application processes and allow us to proceed in a timely manner to introduce these defence measures. The estimated cost of the measures we'd like to put in place are still being worked out, but it is likely to be several million. While we might gulp at the prospect of several million being spent, this number is considerably less than what would have to be spent if the road were to be washed away and we would have to focus all of our attention on the back roads. The considerable back road network will require a far greater sum to be spent on, while it being far less effective. Now, time and tide is stopped by no man, and while I recognise the brilliance of the Minister, I am not asking him to do that. Rather, what I am asking is if he can make our defences fit for purpose to help us extend the life of the line for the next 3 decades and ensure that South Devon remains a community that is open, accessible, and that businesses and residents can thrive together. And I thank him and the House for their time.
Thank you. Shingles of the Devon County by your speech. The question is that the House has considered the future of the A379 Slapton line. Minister Opperman.
Well, Mr Paisley, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and it is an honour and a privilege to respond to my honourable friend and discuss something that is part of the heritage of South Devon, but also the heritage of this great country. And he rightly sets out the long and illustrious career of this community and the surrounding area that is particularly notorious for its role in the preparation for D-Day and the 6th of June 1944, when without the actions of this community and this countryside, I believe genuinely we would have been impeded, as is set out in the memorial that I'm aware of, in ability to invade France and take forward the changes that we managed to achieve in 1945. So a real privilege and an honour to respond to this debate, and I hope I can address some of the key points that he raises, which are utterly important. And I thank him for bringing forward this matter, which it is quite clear to everybody who has read up on this particular issue that he has fought assiduously, following in the footsteps of our good friend Sarah Wollaston, to drive forward progress in difficult circumstances, and I give him due credit for that. Clearly, this debate matters not just to the individual local constituents who live in Slapton or Torcross, but has a wider impact on Stokenham, Fridescombe, Street, Visitant to Slapton Lee, and all of the communities that use this particular road up and down the coast. And I accept and understand this has a wider importance than the simple stretch of road that we are talking about in itself, given the nature of the geography, given the difficulties that are involved on an ongoing basis. I express my sympathy for the ongoing concern and worry that this definitely causes. And that should, as any representative member of Parliament knows, that ongoing worry about whether it is about flood risk, whether it is about complications on development, or whether it is about the potential loss of a road, is a serious and legitimate thing that people get very, very exercised about and should not in any way be underestimated, and I certainly don't do that. I have been lucky enough that I have read the Slapton Line Partnership November 2023 strategy, which goes to 25 pages, and had a look at the document, which is a credit to everybody who has brought it forward, and have tried to look also about the considerations. And I think there is a relevant factor which I want to try and assist my honourable friend and the local community with, because this document is created on the 3rd of November 2023, after many months of work in the obvious way. But clearly, subsequent to that, on the 27th of November of last year, Devon County Council received over £6 million, I think it's 6.63 million, of further funding from the HS2 decision taken by the Prime Minister in early October of last year, where the cancellation of the second leg allowed for extra funding to go to local authorities up and down the country. The consequence of that is that when one is assessing the financial capability of the local authority, which I'm going to come on to in a bit, clearly this document by the Slapton Line Partnership was written before they knew that there was further funding coming their way to Devon County Council, and I would respectfully invite probably has to be refreshed given the further funding. Now, my honourable friend kindly asked me to visit, and I would be delighted to accept, and I think there is a legitimate point for a government minister to sit down with the local authority, the interested parties, and obviously the support arm's length bodies, whether that is the EA or Natural England, and drive forward a compromise solution that gives security and peace of mind to the local communities who my honourable friend so ably represents. And that surely is something that is in everybody's interests. We are not talking what the policy is in 100 years, but people do need to know what the policy is in the next 2, 5, 10 years. And that, with respect, is totally legitimate and understandable. Clearly, the government has made serious interventions over a period of time under different administrations, dating back to the decision in 2018 when the then Transport Secretary gave £2.5 million to support the local authorities' works after Storm Emma. And clearly there has been an adaptation manager and other work done, ultimately producing the Slapton Line Partnership strategy. But that strategy has to take into account local people, and I would be very concerned if in any way that wasn't considered by local communities that they were being considered in terms of the impact on those local communities over and above the statutory and the arm's length bodies, because that is something that is of concern to any Member of Parliament, let alone any government minister. Obviously, this is a classic example of the difficulties of combating climate change, coastal erosion, and also the modern-day needs of people to get their children to school, to get out and about across a rural community. But there is no doubt whatsoever that I see a middle ground where this can be a situation that is to the satisfaction of all. Now, under Section 41 of the Highways Act, and it's right that I set out the statutory position, the local authority is the organisation that has a duty to maintain the highways network in the area. The Act, and this is important, does not set out specific standards of maintenance, as it's for each highway authority to assess which parts of its network need repair and what standards should be applied based upon their local knowledge and the circumstances that apply. Now, clearly, a key matter in all of that is funding. Now, Devon County Council receives a very significant amount of funding, in fact, more highway maintenance funding per capita than any local authority, to reflect the fact that it is responsible for more miles of local roads than any other county, mine own in Northumberland included. There is a variety of ways that this is done, but there is the original Highways Maintenance Block Grant, and during the budget of 2023, we are on budget day 2024, there was a further 9.39 million announced at the budget 2023, and obviously then the 6.63 million announced in the late autumn, early winter of last year. That means that the total budget is 68.88 million for highways maintenance from DFT in 23-24. Why that matters is because that is a 30% increase on the sums of money that they were having last year. Now, that is a massive increase in any business or local authority funding, and that really clearly makes a difference. And by way of context, if I go back to 2009-10, the total funding was 27 million. We are now up to 68 million. That is a massive increase in budget, which has come under this particular government. Now, this allows for funding to be spent on the local highways maintenance priorities that matter to most to local people. And clearly, arm's length bodies' views matter. They are very important. But it is also, what do the local people want, as personified by their local parish council, their county council, and their individual members of parliament. And this does unquestionably include potential roads that are under threat, such as the Slapton line. And I genuinely hope that Devon County Council, my honourable friend, and the local community and the partnership will go away and reflect upon the increase in funding, have a proper sit-down, and I'm very happy to facilitate that as a government minister if I'm able to find it in the diary, to genuinely have a sit-down and a discussion about what it is the local community wants, how it is that there can be ongoing preservation of the Slapton line, and how it is that we can have a long-term practical policy that everybody can get behind that will provide the peace of mind over the next 2, 5 and 10 years with an acceptance that things may be different over the very longer period of time. That surely is a practical and pragmatic approach that we all can get behind, and I hope will provide assistance and comfort to my honourable friend and to his constituents. Clearly, it is the case that it is for Devon County Council to spend the money as they see fit once it is given to them. They are the elected representatives, but I want to be utterly clear that the money in relation to the HS2, the 6.63 million, is not ring-fenced. It is not the case that it is prescribed solely to potholes or whatever. It can be spent on any capital project or programme, but it is particularly the case that it is something whereby highways maintenance is something that is prayed and aid in support of that particular announcement. So, to conclude, Mr Paisley, it is an honour and a privilege to respond to my honourable friend, to address a part of the nation's heritage, to stress I will be looking forward to visiting when diaries permit, but also that I'm certain that there is a way forward here that maintains and continues this line in the near future. And I commend this debate to the House.
Thank you, Minister, and I'm sure our colleague appreciates the opportunity of a meeting and the collective visit of the entire committee to the area. So the question is that the House has considered the future of the A379 Slapton line. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. And the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. The sitting is now suspended until 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
The proceeding has ended. 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 The